Imagine someone telling you that if you, like specifically you, the person listening to this deep dive right now, were to suddenly disappear, the entire Milky Way galaxy would physically collapse.
I mean, it is just a staggering premise. We're
Mhm.
so accustomed to the exact opposite narrative, right?
Oh, totally.
Where humanity is just this fleeting biological anomaly on a rock hurtling through an indifferent void.
Yeah, that really is the modern default, isn't it? And if you're anything like me, you are probably just exhausted by that narrative.
Right, the doom scrolling.
The constant, inescapable doom scrolling. I mean, everywhere we look, the conversation is dominated by, doomsday scenarios.
Climate collapse, rogue AI, all of it.
Exactly, or geopolitical tensions pushing us to the brink. It can induce this profound sense of paralysis. But today, our mission is to offer you a completely different lens.
A radically different lens.
We are unpacking a translated essay from January 2024 by an author named Feng, titled The Three Pillars Preventing Human Extinction. And our goal here is to explore how this deeply optimistic, really unconventional text constructs a psychological reality that is like 100% immune to despair.
And just to set the stage for you listening, we're entirely impartial here. We're not analyzing this text as some peer-reviewed scientific treatise.
Right, right.
Nor are we endorsing it as a religious truth. Instead, we're looking at this as a fascinating philosophical framework,
Yeah.
like a psychological masterclass
Hmm.
in how a human mind can creatively rebel against the anxiety of our era.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the jump, because the author doesn't really inch into this thesis. They drop a massive anchor on page 1.
Yeah, they really do.
The text states flatly that humans will not go extinct, period.
Right.
It claims we are guaranteed to exist for billions of years until the solar system enters something called the long axis segment of the Taiji ellipsoid.
Right, the Taiji ellipsoid.
Now, I have to admit, when I read that, I hit a mental wall. Like, what exactly are we visualizing here?
Well, let's draw a mental picture of that because it's the bedrock of the author's timeline. So imagine a massive egg-shaped orbital path, an ellipsoid, spanning the cosmos.
Okay, an egg shape, got it.
Now, the author uses the term Taiji, which is an ancient Chinese philosophical concept representing the supreme, ultimate, the fundamental source of yin and yang.
The delicate balance of the universe. Right?
Exactly. So by combining Taiji with ellipsoid, the author is asking us to visualize the solar system traveling along this geometric mathematical path that is also imbued with a profound spiritual purpose.
Uh-huh.
And the long axis segment just implies this distant, elongated stretch of this orbit.
So we aren't just floating aimlessly. We're on a very specific, scheduled track.
Right.
But I want to push on this blending of vocabularies a bit. I mean, you have strict geometric astrophysics right next to ancient cosmology. Why would the author fuse a mathematical shape with a concept of spiritual balance right out of the gate? It feels almost like a contradiction.
What's really fascinating here is that, to the author, it is not a contradiction at all. It's a unification.
A unification.
Yeah, because since the Enlightenment, we have largely separated the mechanical universe from the meaningful universe.
Oh, that makes sense. Like, science gives us the mechanics but strips away the inherent purpose.
Precisely. And philosophy gives us purpose but lacks empirical physics.
Yeah.
So by marrying Taiji with ellipsoid, the author is forcefully re-enchanting the universe.
Wow, re-enchanting the universe. I like that.
They're telling the listener, hey, the cosmos operates like a hyper-precise clock, but it's a clock with a soul. And because we are billions of years away from reaching this long axis segment, we basically have an airtight cosmic guarantee. I mean, you simply cannot have a doomsday tomorrow if the mechanics of the universe require billions of years to strike midnight.
That is a phenomenal psychological comfort blanket. I mean, it takes the timeline completely out of our hands.
It really does.
But the author doesn't just rely on that distant cosmic marker, right? Like, to prove we are safe in the meantime, the essay builds 3 distinct arguments, kind of moving from a macro perspective down to the microscopic.
Yes, the 3 pillars.
And rather than starting in the stars, the author starts by looking at humanity from the top down, focusing on the local dirt of Earth.
Yeah, this is where we get into the agrarian metaphor, which fundamentally reframes our relationship with, well, whatever created us.
Exactly. So the author asks us to imagine a cattle farmer who raises 10 cows. That farmer has invested time, resources, care into this herd.
Right, it's their livelihood.
The farmer isn't going to suddenly slaughter all 10 cows at once. They aren't going to let them starve. They'll treat their illnesses. They'll build fences to keep the wolves out.
Yeah.
So in this analogy, Earth is the literal farm, The creator of humans is the farmer, and we, the entirety of the human race, are the cows.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how this completely neutralizes existential dread.
How so?
Well, in a universe that modern science portrays as chaotic and indifferent, this metaphor posits a strictly managed existence. We are not some cosmic accident fending for ourselves in the dark.
We're a protected asset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A farmer's identity and livelihood depend on the continuation of the herd.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us on a practical level? Because on the surface, it sounds incredibly warm, we're watched over.
Right.
But then, right in the middle of this comforting analogy, the author drops a caveat that completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, the surplus line.
Yes. The text says, quote, "However, if a farm's grass can only feed 30 cows, and the number of cows on the farm exceeds 30, then the surplus cows will be dealt with."
Yeah, that phrase introduces a very different flavor to the farmer's benevolence.
I mean, I have to push back hard on the author's optimism here because that phrasing is chilling. Dealt with.
It is cold.
It immediately evokes the ecological reality of carrying capacity, right? Like an environment can only sustain a specific population before resources crash.
Exactly.
But treating human beings as surplus to be actively dealt with by a benevolent creator. If a famine wipes out millions or a pandemic sweeps the globe, and the author's explanation is simply farm management, that doesn't feel optimistic.
No, I hear you.
That feels terrifying. It feels like it destroys the whole comforting premise of the text. How can the author reconcile ruthless mass casualties with a message of ultimate safety?
You are hitting on the exact tension the author is navigating here, and it requires a big shift in how we define safety. This raises a crucial question about the distinction between the survival of the individual and the survival of the species. The author's absolute guarantee is about preventing human extinction, not preventing individual suffering or mortality.
So it's a completely utilitarian framework.
Precisely. By introducing this dark caveat, the author is actually bulletproofing their own theory against the reality of the evening news.
Oh, I see.
Because if the text only promised pure safety, the first natural disaster or war would instantly disprove the whole philosophy. The listener would say, well, where was the farmer when this hurricane hit?
Ah, right. So the caveat acts as a sort of psychological shock absorber.
It does. It allows the author to explain away wars, plagues, and ecological collapse, not as the chaotic beginning of the end of the world, but as the farmer deliberately pruning the herd to maintain the farm's carrying capacity. It is a brutal, cold logic, but functionally, it protects the core thesis from empirical reality. The herd will always survive, even if a massive percentage of the cows have to be, well, dealt with.
It transforms a terrifying, uncontrollable global catastrophe into a necessary controlled adjustment.
Exactly.
That is a staggering cognitive reframe. I mean, it asks the listener to find comfort in the survival of the abstract human species, even at the cost of immense personal tragedy. It's a heavy concept.
Very heavy.
But the essay doesn't linger on the farm. It does a complete 180. If that first argument looks at humanity from the top down, the next argument shifts the scale dramatically, asking us to look from the bottom up, gazing out at the architecture of the cosmos itself.
This is where the scale of the author's ambition really reveals itself, moving from a localized agricultural metaphor to the structural integrity of the galaxy.
The domino effect described here is just wild. Let me walk you through the logical chain.
Please do.
First, the author claims the solar system explicitly serves Earth. Second, Earth serves humans. Therefore, if humans were to disappear, Earth loses its entire value of existence.
Right.
And if Earth loses its value, the solar system essentially loses its anchor and collapses.
And the author carries that chain reaction to its ultimate conclusion. They state that without the solar system, the Milky Way galaxy would be fundamentally imperfect.
Imperfect.
Yeah, the text describes this imperfection as being like a person missing a finger.
Missing a finger.
Yes. So the conclusion is absolute. For the Milky Way to retain its perfection, humans cannot become extinct.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this flies in the face of everything we are taught in modern education.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about Carl Sagan and that famous pale blue dot photograph. Sagan eloquently taught us that the Earth is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark, that our imagined self-importance is an illusion.
Right, a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam.
Exactly. We are trained to feel profound humility, almost insignificance. But this author looks at that exact same vast universe and argues that humanity is the keystone species of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
If you pull the human pin, the galactic arch crumbles. How does a modern scientifically literate person actually maintain that level of cognitive dissonance?
Well, it requires embracing what psychologists might call a radical locus of control, but on a cosmic scale.
Okay.
You mentioned Sagan. And while the pale blue dot perspective is scientifically accurate, psychologically it can be incredibly alienating.
Oh, sure.
It decenters us so thoroughly that it often breeds nihilism. If the universe doesn't care if we exist, why should we care about our own future?
Right, is the point.
What the author is doing here is reconstructing a pre-Copernican mindset, the ancient belief that Earth is the center of everything, but they're updating it with galactic terminology.
So, reverting back to the idea that the stars revolve around our existence, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By arguing that the Milky Way would be missing a finger without us, the author is not making a literal astronomical claim about gravity. They're making a psychological claim about meaning.
I see.
They're arguing that human consciousness is structurally load-bearing for the universe. The universe isn't just a machine, it's an organic body, and we are an essential appendage.
Man, the psychological impact of internalizing that would be monumental. Like, you're no longer an accidental byproduct of chemical reactions. Your daily existence is an absolute requirement for galactic perfection.
Right.
It's the ultimate antidote to feeling small. It basically says, hey, the stars themselves rely on you breathing today.
It is a fiercely defiant stance against the coldness of space, and that defiance transitions us perfectly into the author's final argument, which honestly might be the most audacious shift in scale yet.
Oh, definitely.
We go from the vastness of the Milky Way galaxy all the way down to a single human ego.
It is a dizzying zoom inward. So the author's third argument for why humanity is safe is essentially this, quote, "Because I do not want humans to become extinct, there will be no doomsday, and humans will continue to reproduce."
Wow. It is a doctrine of sheer solipsistic survival.
Solipsism, right?
Solipsism being the philosophical idea that the self is all that can be known to exist.
And the author explicitly widens the aperture of that eye. They state that this singular ego isn't just their own. It could be you, the reader, or him or her.
It's any individual's sheer willpower.
Right. But I have to admit, I struggle with this one even more than the Milky Way finger thing. Elevating personal stubbornness to the level of planetary defense feels wildly arrogant.
It does sound extreme.
It sounds almost childish, like a toddler crossing their arms and saying, the world won't end because I just don't want it to.
Yeah.
How does the author expect any rational thinking listener to swallow that as a legitimate pillar of survival?
Well, this raises an important question about why people fall into despair in the first place.
Yeah.
We doom scroll because we feel an acute lack of agency. We feel like passengers in a car with no driver.
True.
The author knows this sounds scientifically absurd. They are highly anticipating your exact reaction. But by making I do not want it a fundamental structural pillar of reality, the author is forcefully handing absolute agency back to the reader.
Oh, so the friction is the point.
Exactly. They want you to feel the friction between your trained, rational pessimism and this raw, undeniable assertion of human life force. It is an argument that survival isn't just a biological imperative, it is a creative act of will. In a world driven by algorithmic despair, simply asserting I refuse to let this end is framed as the ultimate revolutionary act.
That completely reframes the apparent childishness into something incredibly sophisticated. And what is brilliant is that the author is entirely self-aware about how this reads to a modern audience.
Yes, they don't hide from it.
They don't pretend this is conventional logic. They actually pause the essay to address the reader directly, asking, quote, ridiculous, far-fetched nonsense.
The author is looking the listener right in the eye there. They know you have 1,000 scientific, historical, and logical reasons to discard everything they've just proposed.
But instead of backing down or, trying to invent mathematical proofs for the Taiji ellipsoid, the author doubles down with absolute conviction. They declare that these simple, almost stubborn assertions are actually describing the most profound laws and rules of the universe.
It's a bold assertion that ultimate truth doesn't always reside in empirical data sets or statistical projections.
Right.
Sometimes, according to this framework, the deepest, most foundational truths are found in the irrational, unyielding human demand for continuity. The author is rejecting the premise that cynical, data-driven pessimism is the only valid, mature way to view the future.
I love that. And just when you think you have a handle on the author's rhythm, they throw one last massive curveball.
Oh, the timeline shift.
Yes. We have spent this entire deep dive talking about billions of years of cosmic safety, the slow pruning of the divine farmer, and the eternal perfection of the Milky Way. And then, abruptly, the author radically shrinks the timeline.
Yeah, they write, the future of humanity is beautiful. In another 20 years, everyone will live a happy, joyful, free, and blissful life in a paradise isolated from the world.
The shift in temporal scale here is fascinating, and it introduces a very complex linguistic paradox.
It really does, especially that phrasing, isolated from the world.
Yeah, think about the logistics of that sentence. If literally everyone is living in this blissful paradise, what world are they isolated from?
Right. Who's left?
Exactly. Who or what is left behind in the world if humanity is in paradise?
Well, it makes no sense if we read the world as a physical globe. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the author's psychological project, we have to read the world as a paradigm, a state of being.
Like the current paradigm of anxiety, resource wars, and doom scrolling.
Precisely. To be isolated from the world means to be completely insulated from the cynical, destructive, fear-based systems of our current era.
Oh, I see.
The world represents the old operating system, the terror of extinction, the anxiety of being the surplus cattle, the alienation of feeling insignificant in the cosmos.
Right.
The paradise is simply the human condition entirely emancipated from that mindset.
Okay, that clarifies the geography of this paradise. But I still need to synthesize this timeline because it feels like massive whiplash.
It is a bit jarring.
On one hand, my existential terror is soothed because humanity is mathematically guaranteed to survive for billions of years. On the other hand, a literal utopia is scheduled to arrive in exactly 2 decades. Why do we need both timelines?
Because the human brain requires distinct mechanisms to maintain hope.
Mhm.
A billion-year guarantee is incredibly effective at curing ultimate existential dread.
Sure.
However, if you only have a billion-year horizon, it inevitably breeds apathy.
Right, you might think, well, this species is safe forever, so why should I bother trying to fix my local community today? It's out of my hands.
Exactly. The distant timeline creates safety, but destroys urgency.
Right.
By introducing the 20-year promise, the author provides an immediate, tangible incentive within a single human lifetime.
Ah, brilliant.
It tells the listener, not only are you eternally safe, but the fruits of that safety are going to manifest for you, right around the corner. It brilliantly balances eternal security with immediate, actionable anticipation.
You have the comfort to sleep at night and the motivation to wake up and work in the morning.
Yes.
It is an incredibly potent psychological cocktail. When we pull back and look at the entire architecture of this essay, it really is a masterpiece of cognitive engineering.
It really is.
You have the top-down shield, the divine farmer who ensures the herd survives, reframing tragedy as mere maintenance. You have the bottom-up shield, the structural perfection of the Milky Way, which turns every single human life into a load-bearing pillar for the cosmos.
Yeah.
And finally, you have the inward shield, the sheer, defiant willpower of your own ego, refusing to concede to the void.
And importantly, regardless of whether a listener believes in the geometry of the Taiji ellipsoid or the literal missing finger of the galaxy, the text functions as a vital case study.
Oh, so?
Well, it demonstrates that our experience of reality is entirely downstream of the metaphors we choose to adopt.
It shows that rejecting despair isn't just about ignoring bad news. It requires actively constructing a narrative where the future is beautiful by necessity.
Exactly. Which brings us to a final thought. I want to leave you, the listener, pondering today.
Let's hear it.
Think deeply about that second argument, the idea that without human existence, the Milky Way galaxy would be imperfect. If you truly allowed yourself to internalize that radical locus of control,
Oh, wow.
if you believed in your bones that your daily existence was the linchpin holding the fabric of the galaxy together, how would that sheer weight of cosmic responsibility change the way you interact with your life tomorrow morning?
Man, that is a question that completely changes the gravity of an ordinary day. Thank you for taking this mind-expanding deep dive with us. Keep questioning your frameworks, keep looking up, and we will catch you next time.